People are hard to hate close up. Move in. Brene Brown said that. I've had a lot of experience in hate. I was pickled in it for very many years, and it actually kept me alive. But so for me, I understand that hate is actually cold anger, because anger is actually kind of difficult to sustain over long periods of time, and so you kind of pack it into hate. It takes up a little bit less space, and although of course it's still very corrosive over time. And anger, of course, is what we do when we feel afraid, when we feel hurt, traumatized, when we feel threatened. So hate actually works as a protection, and it is why people choose it. Now, it may not be based on accuracy, which we're going to talk about in a minute, but if we want to understand people who are hating, and for me, I was hating people really close to home. I didn't hate, groups or things like that, but I hated myself. I hated people that were close to me that I felt had hurt me. And in order to survive in my relationships with them, I actually had to hate. Or I thought I did. I didn't know what my other tools were. But even people who are hating people who are far away from them, that there's at least, like 80% of the time, and that's of course a fake statistic, but you get what I mean. 80% of the time they're feeling threatened by something that they think they know. And so when we try to work toward world peace and work with people who have a sense of hatred, it's important to understand that we need to make them safe. They need to have an understanding of how they are safe instead of how they are threatened, because their hatred comes from their threat. Other people, there are other reasons for hate. Other reasons might be just because you can, a pride or an indulgence of that people don't matter, and you get a rush from being cruel and hating, although those are not necessarily the same thing, although they do go together sometimes. But even those kinds of prides, if people don't matter, if you've learned that people don't matter, that is a wound. I mean, if you've learned that maybe you don't even know that you matter, so why would you have any value for anybody else? That's also a wound. Now, of course, what all these things have in common, like I said, is that they're not accurate. And that's what I like about Ms. Brown saying, move in, get closer, get some more information, get some more understanding, listen to their story, let them tell you about their mother, their father, let them tell you about their childhood, let them tell you about their hopes and dreams. And then you find out that that's not so scary and it's not so different. Or maybe it is very different from your experience, and that's why they ended up in a different place. And no wonder, because you would have done the same thing in their shoes. And we do see this. A lot of times we have suspicions and hate toward groups of people, but then when we meet one, we never met any of them. But then when we meet one of them, we're like, oh, you're really nice for fill in the blank. I hate blah, 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 or, I don't trust blah, 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 but you're a really nice one of those, and we don't realize how, but that's the way it's supposed to work. I mean, when we get up close, they're people, right? But it's funny that we can't, hopefully make that into bigger, well, maybe if one of them is like this, maybe, again, not all of them, because no group of people is all good or all bad, because what's what we are. We're human beings. There's going to be some jerks, there's going to be some saints, and there's going to be a whole bunch of people in the middle. That's just how it works. And it has nothing to do with the group you're in, and everything to do with the fact that we're breathing. And even with, in my example of the hatred that I carried, for example, I hated my father for a very long time. And my hatred was based in hurt and trauma, but it was also based in my judgment that I had of him, that he should have done this and should have done that for me. You know, should not have hurt me. He should not have hurt me. And the way that I got close is I became a parent myself. And I got firsthand knowledge of what it means to be a parent and how difficult and challenging it can be. And even though I still, the things that happened to me still happened, and I'm not talking about abuse or anything, but it was just, or at least not physical abuse, but it was just, he was a harsh, old school man. I don't know. He's passed away now, and I love him and I'm grateful to him, but I became grateful because of my experiences getting closer to what it means to be a parent, and then I realized I didn't have time to hate because I was going to be passing that on to my children, and that it was just difficult. You do your best and you end up hurting your children. That's just by being imperfect. It's what happens. So I learned that. So if you find yourself hating for any reason, get close. And even those, I think I've talked about them in, there are stories of people who have radically forgiven those who have done crimes against them. But one of the ways that they're able to do that is they get close. They see why that person who's a drunk driver, how they got to that point in their life. Maybe it's just a young kid. Maybe he never had a chance, or whatever. And it's because you learn what the story is, and then it becomes easier to forgive. And that's by getting close. So let's get as close as we can to each other. And maybe one time I should talk about how to do that, but and then hate is harder to maintain, which is a good thing, because the thing that comes in after that is peace.